Welcome to Crime Most French, a podcast featuring crimes carried out on French soil, narrated and researched by Cedric and rudely interrupted by me, Melanie. We're the true crime podcast en alliance. Crack open le vin and let the mayhem commence.
The affair this week I called the Antoinette Sierri affair. Antoinette Sierri is a woman who found herself in the middle of a number of murders, and it became very quickly, because it was soon after, the most followed case in France after the Landru affair, which was our episode 4.
Sounds very accidental. She found herself. She accidentally found herself in the middle. Whoops, I'm in the middle of a murder case again.
Yes, we're going to say that's really the case. Antoinette Sierri was born on the 14th of February 1891 in Vendres. That's department 34, and I can't remember what 34 is. It's somewhere southeast of Toulouse, I think.
So she was born on a holiday?
On holiday?
No, she wasn't born on a public holiday, 14th of July.
14th of February.
Oh, I thought you said 14th of
I don't know,
July.
but it's February anyway.
So she was born on Valentine's Day?
Yes.
Yes.
She gets married to a guy called Anselme Salomon. He was a fairly wealthy landowner, so things are okay.
I have to say, I don't think I've ever come across an Ansel.
Anselme.
I've
No,
never.
It used to be a 19th century first name. I don't think anybody since then has been given that name, but yeah, it was a name. It does exist. One day, Anselme discovers that Antoinette was being unfaithful, so they separate, but they don't divorce. So they live separated, but she's still technically married.
I mean, I guess they were maybe Catholics, perhaps.
Most likely, yes. Divorce in the 19th century would not have been, or early 20th century would not have been something you want to do.
No, big scandal.
Big scandal, yes. Unfortunately, Anselme died soon after because he went to the First World War
Okay.
and got shot there.
So not suspicious at all. Sad, but not suspicious.
Exactly.
Ah,
And she ends up a widow, and she can do whatever she wants. She
okay.
has his money. But she's not really rich. She works most of her life,
Okay.
and she has lots of different jobs, mostly small jobs. The most important for the story is she had a nurse-like position for several years where she would look after patients that are like followed at home for illnesses, not in hospital, because at the time nobody would go to hospital. So she was said to had to have very good bed manners, to be diligent, to be affectionate towards her patient.
Mm-hmm.
She would always be ready to sit with her patients at her patient's side for hours, and sometimes in their last hours.
Yeah, I've got a horrible feeling where this is going.
So she's known for being good to her patients.
Yeah.
And people trust her and all that.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Uh-huh. I know this is a crime podcast. I can totally tell where this is going.
Yes. On the 18th of March 1925, Henri Rossignol doesn't feel well. Henri Rossignol is her boyfriend. She lives with him.
Okay.
She didn't remarry.
But she's living in sin. I would have thought that would have been.
She's living in sin, and that's the guy she was having an affair when she was married.
Okay.
So he's the guy. After a meal of mussels with white wine, with her, his stomach starts burning, and it's never happened before. He has to go to bed, where he suffers for hours and hours and hours, and she can't explain it, he can't explain it, he doesn't know what happens. They assume the muscles were bad.
Yeah.
Henri is strong, and he doesn't assume it's too bad. He just assumes it's a bad moment, but I'll be fine.
Yeah.
The doctor is called, and he treats Henri for a bad flu. They assume it's flu. No idea how you can have a burning stomach and say it's flu, but apparently that's what the doctor said.
So maybe he thinks it's a gastric flu rather than just straightforward
Yeah,
flu.
maybe, I don't know. But the treatment is totally ineffective. It does nothing.
Well, yes. You're treating the wrong thing. You're treating a virus.
Yes, exactly. Antoinette stays at his bedside the whole time, She knows what she's doing.
Mm.
She's a nurse. She takes care of him, but can't stop the inevitable. On the 19th of March, after 20 hours of pain, Henri dies.
Oh, that sounds brutal. That sounds
Doesn't
awful.
sound nice.
Poor guy.
Yes. During the funerals, Antoinette doesn't show much grief, and it surprises people. She even seems happy.
Oh dear.
Some people are shocked by that and they're asking questions, but really, it seems natural. It must have been bad muscles or bad flu, who knows. So nobody really suspects her of having done anything. There's no reason to.
No.
And they forget about her until the death of Anna Guan on the 10th of April 1925.
Mm-hmm.
When she dies, a doctor called Clausel, who was asked to record the death, to witness it, refuses to sign the inhumation certificate. He has doubt about really what happened. On the insistence of that doctor, the police starts inquiring about the death, and learning that Henri died not long before, in kind of similar circumstances, they think they have something going on. Mrs. Guan lived on a winemaking farm, and as such, something is important to know. Arsenic is everywhere.
Right.
Because arsenic is used to kill a butterfly larvae that eats vine. Right. And there is a substance that is widely available that contains 25% arsenic. So 1 gram of arsenic is enough to kill 5 people.
Mm.
So if you want to poison someone, go work on a wine farm, because you'll have arsenic very readily available everywhere in massive quantities.
That's true. I mean, Bouillie Bordelaise is the stuff that they use round about here specifically. I would imagine that's some kind of copper sulfate.
Oh yeah, that's terribly toxic.
Yeah, that would be incredibly bad for you now. So
yeah, and it's bad for everything, but they're still used.
Yeah. In
a barn on the farm, a very large bottle of arsenic is found. Not the bottles they use in the fields, another bottle.
It's the one from like a pharmacy or something.
I don't have any details, but the way I understood it was, instead of being in the big containers that farmers would have, it was in like a normal bottle.
Like a bottle, yeah.
The provenance isn't known at the moment. But there's enough in there to kill hundreds of people.
Wow.
At first, the bottle doesn't surprise anybody because, of course, you have arsenic. Okay, put it in different container if you want.
Yeah. Mm.
But the victim's father-in-law, an elderly man, recalls that neither he nor any of the employees on the farm had bought or had been asked to buy arsenic anytime recently. So then the bottle looks a bit weird.
Yeah.
The police starts questioning people in the area, and they discover that Antoinette had obtained the bottle through a winemaker acquaintance of hers.
Oh, right, okay.
So it didn't come from the farm, and they immediately arrest her. After that, she's put in prison, and she goes to trial. So the police only has 2 murders to go on at the moment. One they suspect, one they kind of have some evidence, maybe. Because finding a bottle really doesn't tell you anything much about what happened. But they assume there's something going on there, so they risk it. The trial starts on the 8th of February 1927, and she's accused of having killed 6 people by that point.
Wow.
Plus 1 attempted murder. In fact, 2 attempted murders. The 6 people are unsolved cases that they discovered happened around her, or she was around when people died.
Okay.
So they started connecting the dots, and they think, she's been around 1 person, 2 people, 3 people, 5, 6. That's a lot of people dying around her.
So is this the people that were dying? Was it people who she was looking after?
Most of them, yes.
Yes.
So she had a direct contact with those people before they died.
Mm-hmm. So she's basically just an angel of death then. Yeah,
some of them it's less clear, but yes, they assume at that point that because she was around so many, even though they can't prove anything, she was involved. So they try her for that.
I mean, in the 20s, presumably, there's a lot of illnesses that could just kill you. So people aren't probably going to think too much about, an invalid.
No, No. But the problem is the number. That's what really bothers the police.
Of course.
If she had been around one person dying, maybe two, could be bad luck.
Yeah.
But 6?
It's certainly not Munchausen either if she's actually physically poisoning them.
Yes, and she's not really trying to get anything out of it or exploit it. She's just killing people. She just happens to be around when people die.
Well, it's just very strange that she's just, she's obviously clearly a complete psychopath if she's not actually getting anything from these people.
But that's the thing. That's why people never suspected her, because she never got anything out of it.
Yeah, well.
Early on, Antoinette tries to involve Rosalie Gir in her murders. She and Rosalie were friends, and she says that Rosalie told her how to use the substance that contains arsenic called pyralion. She was the one who knew how it worked and how to use it on people. Mm-hmm. She says in particular that Rosalie told her how to counter the effect of the poison so that she could prolong or save the victims if she wanted to. So she could poison somebody, nurse them back to health, poison them again, and as long as she wanted to, because she knew how to get rid of the arsenic.
Now that sounds like Munchausen, but she obviously wasn't
because again she doesn't make any noise.
No, that's true.
Because Munchausen, you want people to look at you.
Yes, it's true. You want to swoop in and save the day and save somebody.
Well, you have Munchausen and Munchausen by proxy. Munchausen by proxy is you poison somebody and you try to save them to be savior. And Munchausen, which is you do something to yourself.
To yourself, yes.
But in all cases, you want to be seen. She doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't make any noise. Nobody suspects her. So it's not Munchausen.
No, that's what I'm saying, because she's not obviously making any...
Yeah. But she says that Rosalie taught her how to control the effect of the poison, and she could choose.
I'll be looking at that woman. How she discussing this? It's.
I don't know how it came up in the conversation. It's not something you would really talk about with people, but apparently that's something she talked about.
I mean, unless you're actually recording and physically doing stuff about true crime, you should never know that stuff like that. It's just weird. It
is just weird. Surprisingly, Rosalie isn't at the trial at first. And it surprised people because they were expecting to be a co-accused. Mm-hmm. She has been excluded from the accusation because her involvement couldn't be proven. No. The police could find no link whatsoever between her and the death. The only link that exists is that she knew Antoinette. That's it. They can't say she had access to arsenic. She can't say she had knowledge of arsenic. They can't say anything. Yeah. So they decided to exclude her as a co-accused.
Well, all you have, I guess, is that one conversation, and it's a bit of a leap to go from a conversation.
And we don't even know if it's true at that point, because that's what Antoinette says.
Yeah,
but who knows if it really happened? Mm-hmm. Rosalie denies that it ever happened. She said, "I don't know about arsenic. I certainly didn't tell her how to use it to anyone." So that's why they exclude her. But she's then used as a witness.
Okay.
Because she knew what Antoinette was doing.
Oh, but she didn't say anything.
No. She's a bit more involved than that.
Oh, right, I see.
But the driver for that is after the Dreyfus affair, where a soldier or an officer was accused of treason because he was Jewish. The trials are, for a little while after that, very cautious about who they accuse of what.
Right.
If they don't have very good proof, they just don't want to prosecute.
Yeah.
That doesn't last very long. They go back to normal after a while. But the Dreyfus affair was late 19th, early 20th century. So we're talking less than 20 years earlier. Uh-huh. So tribunals are still a bit twitchy at that point. So they might have wanted to prosecute Rosalie. They might have suspected her. But they didn't have enough evidence and they didn't want to risk it. So that's why they don't. She's safe at that point.
Okay.
During the trial, the results of the police inquiry are discussed. Mm-hmm. Antoinette is accused of having killed her first victim, Mrs. Douar, 64 years old, on the 11th of December 1924.
Just before Christmas. That seems savage.
That was about 3 months before she killed Henri Rossignol. Antoinette is said to have brought tisanes, and she was known for bringing tisanes to her patients a lot. Mm-hmm. She did it several times for Mrs. Douar. The police suspect that it was cut with arsenic.
Yeah.
Can't prove it now because it was,
of course not.
At that point, 3 years earlier.
Yeah, you've not got the tin still sitting around.
Exactly. Antoinette denies, of course. Mm-hmm. But there are witnesses that were in the room when she brought the tisanes, and they could say she brought the tisane and 2 hours later the guy was dead.
Yeah.
So that's how they tie her to the murders, because in several cases there's a witness around.
Mm-hmm.
To have a bit more to actually try to prove what was going on, they exhume several of the bodies and they find extremely large amounts of arsenic in those bodies.
Right.
And at that point they say, yeah, that's poisoning and that's her.
Well, yeah. I mean,
So that's why it ended up going to trial.
So it's basically that one. She was the one common denominator amongst these people.
Exactly. She was seen bringing things to these patients. They all died. They got poisoned with arsenic.
Yeah.
It's circumstantial. I don't know if it would work today, but at the time it seems to have been enough to prosecute.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think what would be done differently now, but
You would need more proof that she actually first prepared the tisane, and you'd have to prove that those tisanes were poisoned, not others brought by someone else, or some other kind of food.
Mm-hmm.
Because it could have been in the water, it could have been in anything. As long as you can hide the taste, you can put it anywhere. So it's a bit thin, but it seems to have been enough at the time.
Mm.
It's very difficult to know why she killed her first victim, Mrs. Dwyer, because she had no money whatsoever. She was indigent, so she only had a house, and that's all she had. She had nothing whatsoever. So Antoinette got nothing out of it.
Mm.
Maybe she was expecting the old woman to have fed in some money, because at the time people didn't really use banks, so they would hide money in their house, and there wasn't any. Maybe she assumed there would be because she had a house, so she must have had money, and in fact, no, she had nothing. It's hard to tell, but she didn't get anything out of that. And that was the first proven victim.
Okay.
Her second and third victims were the La Chapelle couple, Jacques and Marie, on the 21st of December 1924.
So she did a twofer then?
She did a twofer. It didn't take long after the previous murder, because the previous murder was 11th of December, so we're talking 10 days or so later.
So, I mean, there's certainly no sign of any remorse.
No, they were her employers.
Oh my God.
She was working for them.
Wow, it's just savage.
By all accounts, they were good and generous to her. They were giving her anything she wanted. They didn't exploit her. She was working in good conditions. So there's really no reason why she would have done anything against them. But again, she used arsenic against them, and they both died on the same day.
Yeah, that seems like a foolish move on her part if she was wanting to go under the radar.
Yeah, twofers are risky.
Yes.
Because one guy can die of some illness, but a guy and his wife on the same day?
Not unless they're having dodgy mushrooms, but...
Again, yes, she was known for cooking lots of mussels on purpose. Because then she could blame the mussels for food poisoning and nobody would look very closely.
Well, if she swapped to mushrooms, then it could be easily that,
Could be mushrooms, yeah.
Yeah,
but it was mussels. Her MO was mussels.
Was mussels, yeah.
Mussels and tisanes, depending on the person.
Yeah.
So then came Henri, that we've talked about already.
Mm-hmm.
Witnesses add to the fact that Antoinette didn't seem to be sad at death.
Yeah.
That she somehow, apparently, was known to have had a party during the week.
Oh my goodness.
Next to the body with Rosalie.
Yeah, I mean, we're not in Ireland. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, but there was a wake. Well, in Ireland, it's very sad and that's
but they still have a wake and a big party.
They have wakes here sometimes as well, but that was a party. There was a lot of alcohol and dancing, and somehow that came out.
It was a decadence of the 20s at a very inappropriate time.
Exactly, near the body of your husband you just killed.
It's just awful.
So that really irked people. When it was described in the tribunal, apparently there were gasps in the audience.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
No, the horror of having a party, not the horror of murdering several people.
Yes. On the 24th of March 1925 came the turn of Marie Martha. She was the daughter of a town lawyer, and she was very young. So her death really... It caused a few people to ask questions, because when it was an elderly person that was
Yeah.
known to be sick that she was nursing,
Yes.
okay, they can die.
Yeah.
But she was in her 20s. She was healthy in her 20s, and somehow she suddenly died.
Well, and that's just bad move on her part. I mean, Harold Shipman was particularly, focusing on old people.
Yes.
Because nobody asks questions, because old people die, but young.
Yeah.
Presumably she was convalescing from something to be...
Yes.
But obviously
nothing
not
major.
anything life-threatening.
No, it wasn't anything major.
Mm.
Also, it could be that she got cocky, because at that point she had gotten away with at least 3 murders.
Yeah.
So she's like, I can kill whoever I want.
I don't know if that's always a cliche that you see in, films and TV programs that, the longer it goes on, the sloppier the murders get. So
yes.
this seems very indicative.
That's probably part of what happened there. But also, it turns out that she wanted some of her stuff, because when the police searched her house, she found some of her belongings in Antoinette's house.
Okay, so she developed light fingers as well.
Yes, exactly. There must have been something she wanted. I think there was a purse, there was a couple of other things, fairly small things, not huge value, but some elements that obviously weren't hers. So that might have been the motivation for that murder. And at that point, if you know you can murder whoever you want, you start murdering for just trivial reasons.
Yes.
Like you want somebody's purse, or you want somebody's annoying you on that day, and because you know you can get away with it, so why not? So that's probably some of what happened with Antoinette. Then came Anna Guan on the 10th of April, and as she was poisoning Mrs. Guan, who was fairly old, she also tried on the side to poison another woman, one of her friends, who was called Myrmont.
So she's now multitasking.
She's trying to multitask, yes. She bought arsenic from a corner shop in the morning, and the first signs of poisoning for Mrs. Guan appeared at lunchtime. The other woman, Mrs. Myrmont, was lucky because she didn't finish the tisane she was given. She didn't like it. And that's what saved her. So she survived. So Mrs. Guan, dead. Mrs. Myrmont, no, she survived. She's one of the very few that survived the poisoning. She thought the taste was too bitter. She must have not managed to hide the arsenic very well.
Yeah.
So just she had a little bit and then stopped drinking, and that was enough to survive.
Yeah.
But she's very diminished, and when she comes to the tribunal to testify, she looks like she's currently being poisoned. She's really, really bad looking. She's in really bad health because of the effects of arsenic, and that's the effect she'll have all her life. So she survives, but she's not going to have a good life after that.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yes, and her testimony is probably the one thing during the trial that convinced the jury that Antoinette was guilty.
Yeah.
Even though, technically speaking, the links are very weak, because she survived. She probably has very little arsenic in her body by the time of the trial. So it's difficult to really link them very strongly. But the fact that she was there, that she looked the way she looked, and that she said she tried to poison me, that seems to really have a huge effect on the audience and on the jury.
Surely they could test her hair. The arsenic could be in her hair.
We're talking 1920, as very much that they could test hairs.
I thought that was pretty rudimentary, isn't it?
No, and they were barely starting using fingerprints.
Yeah, but...
Remember, Murdoch invented them in 1905 or something. I couldn't remember the date. So,
Nothing better than mixing fiction and actual fact.
Yeah, remember we talked about the guy who started the scientific police in France, in Lyon.
Yes.
And that was at about that time. So it was really, really the start of trying to get scientific proof for police inquiries. I very much doubt they would have been able to analyze hairs. Or even know that arsenic would stay in hairs. They mightn't even have known at the time.
True.
So no.
It's easy for me sitting, 100 years later.
Yeah, I remember the first case in the UK of a murder without a body, a trial for that. The wife, I think, had been burnt in a courtyard, so there was barely anything left. And they still managed to get bits of the body and prove that there was arsenic in there, and that's how they proved that she had been poisoned before being burnt. Even though technically speaking there was barely anything left, it was powder and little bits of here, and it was impossible to prove what was what really. But that was not long before that. That was a very early 20th century. So no, I think they wouldn't have been able to prove anything. Now, yes, it would be obvious. Now we could probably tell you the day that she had been poisoned, but not at the time. They wouldn't be able to do it that well.
So basically, we're just going off a lot of circumstantial evidence.
Yes, and they decided it was enough of it. The mountain was big enough to try her. But yes, that's pretty much what there was.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody saw her actually prepare any arsenic solution. Nobody saw her actually give it to anybody. They saw her give people tisanes or mussels, but that's it. So yeah, it is a big number of murders, lots of circumstantial evidence, some witnesses around at the time that kind of link things. But again, it's not because you give a tisane to someone and they die a few hours later that it's you.
Yeah.
So it is very circumstantial, but that was enough to start.
Mm.
Normally, the way she was doing it for tisane is that she would hide the taste of the arsenic using ether in the tisane. That apparently that gives some kind of sweet taste, and it hides the arsenic. I never knew you could do that. Also, it numbs. It adds ether acts as a numbing agent, so you don't feel the start of the poisoning effects for a while. So it kind of delays the effect, and it kind of disconnects it from you.
That woman is just an
I never knew that, but yeah, it's
psychopath.
Yes, so she could poison people, and they would not show signs of it for a few hours, so it wouldn't be exactly obvious because arsenic kills you very quickly.
Yeah.
But if you show no signs of it for 2-3 hours and then suddenly die, it's very hard to prove that that's the tisane you gave them 2 hours earlier, or the mussels you gave them at lunchtime when it's the evening by that point. Normally you would suffer for hours, but because of the ether, it would hide that because they would be numb. The stomach would be numb and therefore not burn and not react like normally the arsenic would do.
Yeah.
So yeah, she was pretty good at what she was doing at that point. And we don't know who told her. Allegedly, it's Rosalie, but we don't know. It's revealed during the trial as well that the police discovered that Antoinette had planned to kill the victim's father-in-law. Remember the one that said on the farm, we didn't buy arsenic?
Yeah, uh-huh.
She had planned to kill him as well. She had started putting her plan into action by convincing him of nursing him back to health because he was very old and wasn't in good health. So she had managed to convince him that she needed to look after him, and he had accepted it at that point. But she didn't have time because of her poisoning of the daughter to move to the next phase, which was the actual poisoning. So she had managed to get access to him, but not enough time to poison him. So he was lucky because he's one of the survivors, except that he wasn't actually poisoned, unlike Mrs. Mirmont, which was actually poisoned.
Mm. I mean, he obviously marked his card by...
Yes, and he really escaped by nothing because she poisoned the daughter-in-law in the morning, and she had planned to start on him in the afternoon. But because she died, it kind of put the plan out of sync, and she didn't manage to actually do it. But he was next one a few hours later. So he was very, very lucky.
Now, we're coming into some very hot weather at the moment, but that woman is making my blood run cold. She's terrifying, and what an awful person.
Yes, but at the same time, she was known for being very nice because that's what people saw.
Well, yeah, that's because she's a psychopath.
Yeah. She had a mental evaluation before the trial because people assumed that she was crazy. And the doctor who examined her declared that although she was not very intelligent, she was clearly aware of what she was doing.
Oh, yeah.
And she could plan ahead very well. He says that she described him in minute detail the effect of the poison on her victims, and she was showing no feeling whatsoever about it. She was just describing what was happening minute by minute when people were dying, and she was just describing it like that in the conversation.
Oh, I'll tell you, if you hooked her up to a lie detector, I think she would almost be able to beat it.
Oh, yeah.
Because she sounds like...
She had absolutely no concept that what she had done is wrong. She just did it. She described every minute of it, the suffering, everything. And she was just, talking about it like that.
Yeah.
So, no problem. So, today we will say she's a total psychopath.
Oh, yeah, totally.
But at the time, they didn't really know what it was. But, definitively she was. I
mean, I've heard how Ed Kemper, he was the college killer, the giant one that's in Mindhunter, Netflix fans. He talked about everything he did, especially to his mother, in great detail, just just in such a cold, detached manner. It is clearly something that psychopaths can do. They just have no feelings whatsoever.
They don't have any feeling and no empathy whatsoever. So they can talk about somebody suffering and killing someone, torturing someone, with no feeling, nothing. Because
just like describing what shopping they picked up that day.
Exactly. They have no more feeling about it than that. It's just what psychopaths are. They don't have feelings about things.
No, because they have absolutely zero empathy.
Yeah. The doctor summarized by saying that she had completely lost the ability of distinguishing right from wrong.
Mm.
So she knew what it was, but she couldn't make the difference anymore. It was the same to her.
Mm.
Given that she barely got any financial gain from all her crime, and the people she killed were in no way bad to her, the only conclusion is that she liked to kill.
Mm.
She did it just for fun because she could do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's just no other explanation. Nobody at the time, and I really can't think what it would be, nobody at the time could explain why she did it.
No,
she got nothing out of it. All she did is take a risk and end up being caught for nothing else. There was absolutely no gain.
I mean, it's utter the compulsion of a psychopath.
Yeah. She just felt like doing it, and she did it, and that's it. During the proceedings, there are about 30 witnesses that are called. One of them is Rosalie. And there's a confrontation organized between the two. Of course, they like to do that. I don't know if they still do it, but in the trials, they'd like to confront the victim and whoever did things to them. I don't know why they did that, but they did that, of course, between Rosalie and Antoinette to get an explanation of who did what, who knew what, who organized what.
Also, it's a bit Jerry Springer.
Oh, it totally was. Apparently, it was a shouting match between the two women for like an hour. It's just, it was Jerry Springer in the room. Each was accusing the other of having plotted and organized things, and it was a mess. So it didn't get anything apart from entertainment out of that. And as I said earlier, the witness that had the most impact is Mrs. Mirmont, the one that survived but got poisoned and then got sequels for the rest of her life. She was moving very slowly. She had to be helped all the time. And she was really, really in bad condition, but she was still alive. And that was over a year after she was poisoned. No, 2 years after she was poisoned as well. So it was a long time. And that's it. That's the rest of her life at that point. Especially at the time. There would be no... I don't know if we can cure the effect of arsenic now. I suspect we can't. But at the time, certainly, there was nothing they could do.
Yeah.
So...
Oh, no.
But the whole room was totally quiet when she was talking. That was the only time the room was quiet. Everybody was listening to what she was saying.
Yeah, everybody was probably leaning in, listening.
Exactly. Antoinette's lawyer fights really hard to save her. In the end, he just falls back on insanity. But the doctor's testimony that examined her said that, no, she wasn't crazy. She knew what she was doing. She just didn't care.
Yeah.
So... that the lawyer also tries to say, oh, but what if it was syphilis? What if she was crazy because of syphilis? And the doctor said, why would that be?
Yeah.
Why would she have syphilis? And the doctor said, did you test for syphilis? And the doctor said, no, why would we test for syphilis? So therefore it could be syphilis. That was his argumentation. And the doctor said, no, she just doesn't care. We had discussions with her where she was telling her what she had done in minute details. She was totally fine with it. That's not somebody who's crazy because of syphilis. It's somebody who doesn't care about killing people.
Yeah.
So that argument didn't work, but the lawyer tried really hard.
I mean, syphilis does affect your brain quite badly.
Yes. But you don't behave like a psychopath when you're crazy because of syphilis. You look crazy, you act crazy.
Yes.
But according to the doctor, she didn't.
No.
She could totally explain what she was doing. Yes. She was explaining the effects in details, what to do. She wasn't crazy.
No.
She just didn't care about killing people.
Yeah.
So that argumentation didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, Howard Hughes definitely had the old problems with the syphilis. And look what happened to him. He wasn't... running around murdering everybody. He was just a bit nutty, right?
Yeah, exactly. Syphilis makes you crazy. It doesn't make you murdery.
No.
So that failed. That was really clutching at straws at that point. And that got nowhere. So on the 27th at 4:30 p.m., the jury sentences Antoinette to the death penalty without any attenuating circumstances.
Okay, good.
In the end, it is estimated that the murders that Antoinette was accused of was only the tip of the iceberg.
So she is Harold Shipman, is she?
She was tried for 6 murders, 2 attempted murders, but she's thought to have first started experimenting with arsenic on the César, that's a surname, it's Ceyssore. It's a very weird surname. I don't know what the origin is, but it's a couple who were her landlords when she first moved in with Henri.
Right.
She also experimented on a neighbor who was a garage mechanic called Grancet. All were very, very ill, but didn't die.
Right.
So it's likely that
she was just testing the dosage.
Yes, exactly. She was trying to see what worked and how far she had to go to kill them, and she failed to kill those 3.
Yeah.
While people started looking at her patient lists, some estimate that she killed 1 person a week. Because a lot of the deaths were not entirely unexpected, but not really expected that fast.
Yeah.
And she was always around those people. Because remember, she was nursing people at home that were sick.
Yes.
Sometimes after they had treatment with the doctor or the hospital, they would go home and then she would look after her. So
they've just had a massive relapse and died, kind of thing.
Yeah. So they estimate that she was doing it about once a week, and she started a lot earlier than we actually know, because we know about the first murder that was found out.
Mm-hmm.
So people think that she might have killed about 100 people in total.
Holy crap.
And 93 of them haven't been clearly proven or properly linked to her, but they estimate that she killed that many people. Eventually, the President of the Republic, Dumergue, commuted a sentence to life in prison because he didn't want to break a 40 years hiatus in killing women. There had been no women killed as a result of a trial for 40 years, and he decided he didn't want to do it. The last one was 1886.
I never understand. I mean, I'm all for equality, and I like to think that men and women are equal, but it's just the one time where men and women are not equal, are not treated similarly when they're sentenced.
No, especially when the only argument not to sentence to death when the death penalty is in place is, we haven't done it for a while, let's not do it. But at the same time, do it for men like all the time, because we've had lots of cases from the same period where people were, sometimes groups of people were sentenced to death and killed.
Yeah.
So yes, because there had been a woman killed for 40 years, she decided, let's not change that, and therefore she spent her life in prison instead.
Yeah, but not getting sent to Guyana.
No, because women tended not to be sent there. And I couldn't find a death certificate, so I don't know when she died. I have no idea. I don't know if like the last time the murderer lived like 50 years after her sentence.
That's right,
no, I couldn't find anything, so I have no idea when she died.
Oh, wow.
And that's the end of the story. Probably 100 people dead.
Wow. And I definitely think the moral of the story is not all monsters are men, some are ladies.